السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. الدرس الثاني والعشرون وكذلك الدرس الثالث والعشرون. In this lesson we're going to cover both lesson 22 and 23, and that's the final lesson of Medina book 1 inshallah ta'ala. In this lesson we're going to learn a rule that is going to be introduced now but revisited throughout the course of your studies. So again we'll study it again in Medina book 2, and also we'll study it again inshallah ta'ala in Medina book 3. And this is the rule that is referred to as mamnu' min as-sarf. Mamnu' min as-sarf, just here you can see al-mamnu' min as-sarf. And I'm just going to illustrate this before we read through the actual text of the lesson and then get into our explanation inshallah. So al-mamnu' min as-sarf, it generally means a noun that cannot take an, in, or on. It cannot take the tanween, nor can it take kasra. It cannot take kasra. So you never see the E sound, except for when it has alif and lam, and another rule that we'll come to learn later anyway. But 99% of the time, it can never take an, in, or on. And also, it cannot take kasra unless there's an exception that we will teach you, inshallah ta'ala. That will come in its correct time. So al-mamnu' min as-sarf, whenever you hear this, you know that it's a noun. It doesn't take tanween, nor does it take kasra. So our point of study will be, okay, what does it do instead? Inshallah. So we will go through that shortly. So I'm just going to read from here. حامد طبيب وزوجته مدرسة اسمها آمنة. حامد له 4 أبناء هم حمزة وعثمان وأحمد وإبراهيم. أحمد وحمزة طالبان. أحمد طالب مجتهد وحمزة طالب كسلان. قال يوسف عندي 5 أقلام، هذا قلم أحمر، وهذا قلم أزرق، وهذا قلم أخضر، وهذا قلم أسود، وهذا قلم أصفر. قالت زينب عندي مناديل كثيرة، هذا أبيض، وهذا أصفر، وهذا أحمر، وهذا أزرق، وهذا أخضر. قالت لها فاطمة أعندك منديل أسود؟ قالت لا، ما عندي منديل أسود. قال طلحة عندي مفاتيح كثيرة، هذا مفتاح الغرفة، وهذا مفتاح الحقيبة، وهذا مفتاح السيارة. قال سفيان في بلدنا مساجد ومدارس كثيرة وفنادق قليلة، أهؤلاء أطباء؟ لا، هم مدرسون وهم علماء كبار. جيد. So that is the dialogue, the little conversation that is occurred. And you'll find all of the rules that we are going to learn in general come within this first initial part of the lesson. So as you can see, when I read this, I emphasized sometimes the noun ended with a un sound and sometimes it didn't. Now here underneath al-mamnu' min as-sarf, it says anwa' al-atiya min al-asma' mamnu' min as-sarf. These are the types of nouns that observe this rule. So what the good thing about the Arabic language is, this rule is not just to be applied as you like. It's going to be within a specific amount of nouns that we'll come to, or types of words that we'll come to know, inshallah ta'ala. So the first one, it says al-rakam wahid al-awwal. Zainabu wa Maryamu Fatimatu Aishatu Makkatu Juddatu. What's common about these? These are feminine names. So these are asma al-mu'annatha, feminine names. Then we have al-thani. Hamzatu, Usamatu, Muawiyatu, Talhatu. These are males' names, masculine names that are on the pattern of a feminine noun, because it ends in ta marbuta, the tied ta, which is a primary sign that a noun is feminine. Then we have number 3, thalith, alif and ba. Alif, Uthmanu, Affanu, Sufyanu, Marwanu, Nu'manu. These are masculine names that end in the extra alif and noon. That end in the extra alif and noon. These nouns do not take tanween, nor do they take kasra. The second type, ba, كسلان, جوعان, عطشان, شبعان, ملآن. These are adjectives that end in alif and noon, the extra alif and noon. Okay, so that is another pattern that cannot take tanween, nor can it take kasra. Then we have الرابع, 4 alif and ba. It says Ahmadu, Anwaru, Akbaru, Ahsanu. So these are names that are on the pattern of a verb, and we'll come to know this inshallah. Because if I said Ahmadullah, I praise Allah. This is a verb. But if I say someone's name is Ahmed, it's a name on the pattern of a verb, and we'll come to learn this inshallah ta'ala. But it's just for you to know what kinds of nouns are like this. Then ba, abyadu, aswadu, ahmaru, asfaru, akhdaru, azraku. These are all colors, and in Arabic we use colors as adjectives. So these are adjectives that are on the pattern af'alu, on the pattern of a verb. Then we have al-khamis, Williamu, Edwardu, Londonu, Barisu, Pakistanu, Baghdadu, Ibrahimu, Ismailu, Ishaqu, Yaqubu, Yunusu, Yusufu. These are names that we consider to be foreign names to the Arabic language. They're not originally from the Arabic language. So again, they do not take tanween nor kasra. Then as-sadis, alif and ba. These are two plural patterns. The first one, af'ila'u, and this ends in the alif mamduda, which is referred to as this, alif mamduda, the standing alif and then the hamza after it. These patterns do not take tanween, nor do they take kasra. Aghniya'u. You don't say aghniya'un. No, that's incorrect. You say aghniya'u. Asdiqa'u. Okay, that's a pattern to know that it does not take any of these signs that we have mentioned above. And fuqara'u, fu'ala'u. This is another pattern that follows the same rule. And inshallah, as we study, as I mentioned, this is going to be repeated throughout the course. You'll come to know why, the details in more advanced studies. This is something for you to just be aware of right now. When you see these types of words, don't read them with tanween. Then we have masajidu, mudarisu, fanadiqu, makatibu, daqa'iqu, another plural pattern, and manadilu, mafatihu, fanajinu. These are all plural patterns that are to be observed as following this rule, mamnu'a min as-sarf, that they do not take tanween, nor do they take kasra. Then the first exercise, it says here, at-tamreen, اقرأ الكلمات الآتية واكتبها مع ضبط أواخرها. On the next page, it says, read and write these words, the following words, and write them by placing the correct vowel sounds. Does it end in tanween or not? Inshallah ta'ala. So as I mentioned, in this exercise, you're going to read this section of words here and observe whether they end in tanween or just one dhamma, and that's built upon that rule that we have just shown you. What kind of noun is this? Does this fall into one of the nouns that was on the previous page, as those nouns that do not take tanween, nor do they take the kasra, the eat sound? And remember, we said tanween, that means an, in, un, the final vowel sound of a word that makes it, that has the n sound on it, the tanween, inshallah. So as I mentioned that we would cover both lesson 22 and 23 within this one lesson. The point that we are doing 23 now, it's related to this same point. Now, in the first part of the lesson, you would have seen the noun only taking dhamma. But now it's showing the same rule. But when it's supposed to take kasra, for example, and it cannot take kasra, what does it take instead? How do I show that this noun is supposed to be kasra? What is the replaced vowel sound? The substitute vowel sound, which we're going to see now as we read through this dialogue. المدرس من أنت يا أخي؟ أحمد أنا طالب جديد. المدرس ما اسمك؟ أحمد اسمي أحمد. المدرس من أين أنت؟ أحمد أنا من باكستان. أنا من باكستان, not باكستاني. أنا من باكستان. المدرس عندي 7 دفاتر. It's meant to be مضاف إليه, should be 7 دفاتر, but no, it's on a plural pattern that does not allow it to take tanween nor kasra. So you say 7 دفاتر. لمن هي؟ عباس. هاتي يا أستاذ. هذا لي، وهذا لمحمد، وهذا لحامد، وهذا لإبراهيم، وهذا لعثمان، وهذا ليوسف، وهذا لطلحة. So as you can see, when I'm reading, I'm emphasizing this rule that I've just been teaching you. المدرس. أهذا كتابك يا محمد؟ محمد. لا، هذا كتاب حمزة. المدرس. أين علي يا إخوان؟ حامد. ذهب إلى الرياض. المدرس. وأين يعقوب؟ حامد. ذهب إلى مكة. المدرس. أين إسحاق؟ محمد. خرج. المدرس. متى خرج؟ محمد. خرج قبل 5 دقائق. So as you can see, as you observed in a few of these examples that I'll just highlight for you now in red pen, you can see Pakistan, Dafatira, all of these names in the first line, هذه لمحمد لحامد, all end in the kasr of tanween. Then we have لإبراهيم, لعثمان, ليوسف, لطلحة. Okay. Then we had كتابك يا محمد. لا, هذا كتاب حمزة. So just observing how these types of nouns do not take kasra. Rather they take fatha instead. إلى ذهب إلى مكة, not إلى مكتي. Okay. And then 5 دقائق. So in this lesson, that's all the places you can observe this new rule that we have been learning. Then for example, here is in the first exercise, it says تأمل الأمثلة الآتية. Ponder over the following examples. محمد من محمد إلى محمد لمحمد كتاب محمد. زينب من زينب إلى زينب لزينب كتاب زينب. So when it's supposed to take kasra, it takes fatha instead. So then upon you now, الآن الواجب اقرأ واكتب. يعني أنتم تعرفون معنى هذا. You know the meaning of this now. Read and write, putting in the vowel sounds, insha'Allah ta'ala. So this is the exercise continued, and you got about 20 sentences for you to observe that rule of when a noun doesn't take tanween, nor does it take kasra, insha'Allah. Then underneath it says الثالث التمرين الثالث اقرأ الكلمات الآتية واكتبها مع ضبط أواخرها. Read the following words and write them while putting the correct vowel sounds on the last letter of each word. Again, for you to observe this rule that you have learnt, insha'Allah ta'ala. Then we have الرابع اكتب الأعداد من 3 إلى 10 واجعل كل من الكلمات الآتية معدودا لها. So I mentioned, this is again revisiting counting. So count these numbers from 3 to 10. So start with masjid and make 3 masjid, 4 hotels and the likes. Writing a sentence for each number from 3 to 10 in using these words to count them. So again, you're going to notice that these words, when they're in the plural patterns, they're going to observe this same rule that we have been learning. So alhamdulillah, bifadlillahi ta'ala, laqad atmamna al-kitab al-awwal. وإن شاء الله تعالى سنبدأ الآن بالكتاب الثاني إن شاء الله تعالى. جزاكم الله خيرا. ولو كان لديكم أسئلة فتفضلوا مشكورا مأجورا. So we praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. With this we have finished Medina Book 1. And if you ever have any questions, please do not feel any don't hesitate to ask me. Message me directly or contact us through the Facebook group page, or send me an email, inshallah ta'ala, and we'll try our best to answer your question in a timely fashion. And so, Al-Mubarak alaykum, may Allah reward you and preserve you all in your studies for finishing Medina Book 1. Now it's to Medina Book 2, insha'Allah ta'ala.